Mrs. Larrabee here. Welcome back to the art room. This week we're going to be drawing eyes together, a start to a self-portrait, a focus just on the eyes. There's so many different parts to this that make them look a little more realistic. We're not going to go hyper realistic with all of our details, but we're going to step away from more of the anime or the cartoon side, and we're going to do something a little closer to realistic as far as the shape. Consider it kind of a study of the human eye, just a little bit. All right, you need a pencil, an eraser, and a piece of paper to start. I'm going to push these guys to the side. I'm going to be demonstrating two different approaches. This one has a little bit more curve to it, maybe considered a little bit more of a feminine look. This one is going to have a little bit more of an edge to it, more boxy looking. It's going to have a little bit more of a masculine look. I'm going to ask that you kind of think about what your eyes are. I know we don't have a mirror in front of us, but think for just a moment what you know about your eyes. In the second part, we're going to add color, and I'm going to ask that you add it based on your eye color. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be a tiny bit of a self-portrait, but right now we're just going to get the basics of drawing it down. All right, let's move these guys to the side. Grab your paper. Find the center. So I want you guys to put your finger in the center of your paper. You're going to add a light line on either side of your finger. You get to decide how wide this line's going to be, but basically this is about the width of an eye. Now, I'm not going to have you draw an eye in the center of your paper. Just bear with me for a minute. I just want you to kind of estimate how big you think your eye should be on your paper. All right, I'm going to do mine a little darker, so I'm sure it shows up for you guys, but you want to keep it light because we're going to erase this in a little while. We're going to use our pencil like a ruler. We're going to measure how much we drew. So I just lined the tip of my pencil up and I've pinched it here. So this is about how wide this line is. I'm going to start here and I'm going to make a little mark there. So I'm just kind of measuring like a ruler. I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to make a little mark here. So we have 1 space, 2 space, 3 spaces. The distance between your eyes is approximately the same width as your eye. So that's why we started here with the middle. So this is where an eye is going to be. This is the space where your nose will go. This is an eye. Okay, don't worry, we're not working on noses yet, just eyes. But we just want to get the spacing right. That'll be step 1 in making these look a little more closer to realistic. All right, I'm going to start on this side. We're going to go first with this oval look. This is a little bit more of a feminine look. It has a little bit more of a curve to the top. In kind of an almond shape. So if you think about an almond, they're kind of wider on one end and they curve down on the other end. So I went up a little and I've curved down. I don't want you guys to stress too much about this. You got a pencil. Notice I'm not drawing hard and I'm not drawing solid. I'm using sketching lines. I'm using light lines. I can always find which one of these little lines is my favorite and erase the rest if I need to. All right, if you would like to go a little more to the masculine side or this boxy look, you're going to do something similar, but instead of an almond, you're going to kind of go up. When you get to the top of the eye, it's going to be a little straighter and then back down to a point. Still a little bit of that almond shape, but more boxy instead of curved. The same thing on the bottom. We're going to come down, but we're just going to kind of make the corners a little more solid than we did over here where they were a little more rounded. All right, the pupil and the iris of your eye is kind of like a donut. You have the pupil in the center and you have the iris around the edge. Here's a little trick. If you were to put your eye around like this, it's going to look like your eye is like wide open and you're frightened. If you look at maybe your neighbor, their eye is going to be a little bit more like this. Their eyelid is going to strike somewhere around the top. You're not going to see the whole shape of this colored part of their eye. Okay, so as we're drawing, we're going to draw actually a donut and then we're going to erase the lines we don't need. Here's what I mean by that. We're going to start right here in the center. A lot of times this colorful part, when you're looking straight onto someone, it doesn't quite go all the way down to the bottom. Just depends on the person's eye. Do you see how I finished the whole circle? I'll come back and erase the part that goes outside in a minute. Part of the benefit of doing this is that the pupil is going to go in the center of the donut. And sometimes if you only draw half of it, it's kind of hard to figure out where the pupil is supposed to go. So if you draw the whole circle, you got a little better spot for where that dark pupil's part's going to go. All right, that'll be the same no matter which eye you got. Go ahead and add your donut to the center and a pupil. And then we can erase whatever is outside of the eye that we don't need. All right, one of the things that makes an eye look realistic is that highlight, that hot spot where the light is reflecting. You could look at your neighbor again and see how there's a little bit of light reflecting. We're going to just hold that space by creating a little circle. I'm going to erase the line that it overlaps. Kind of touches the iris and the pupil on here. Whatever the highlight is in this eye, it's going to be the same here. So it is to the right side of my pupil. It's going to be to the right side on this eye too. The light is going to be hitting your eyes in the same spot. Sometimes that can be a little confusing. So right side, right side. All right, go ahead and just kind of pencil in your pupil just so we can kind of hold that space. We can see what all these different lines are that we've got going here. One thing about the pupil size, the larger this black pupil part is, the friendlier the eye will appear. Have you guys heard in literature, you've been reading a book and you've heard small beady eyes. That tends to look less friendly. We know it just has to do with how much light's coming in and a little bit of genetics. But that's one cue. If you want friendly eyes, make that pupil part bigger. All right, there is a part of your eye right here called the tear duct. We're going to add just a little bit of almost like a triangle, but I didn't quite finish it off. This is where our eyes stay moist, where we might cry, where we might discover we have pink eye, if that's the case. This is a realistic part of the eye, though. One other thing that's realistic, this top eyelid is going to be a little darker. It's the way our eyelashes form. We have more of them on the top. So go ahead with your pencil and just darken in the top a little more. Kind of get the idea of how you want your eyes to be. If you're feeling off with your eyes, this works for any piece of artwork. You can go actually and hold it up into a mirror and it will show you where you might be off. Just that reversed image helps your brain take a look at it. So if you were ever working on this at home and you're trying to get two sides the same, looking in a mirror kind of helps you see where it's off, okay? All right, but we don't have a mirror today. We're gonna keep going forward. You're gonna have just a little bit of where your eyelid creases right above your eye. It's gonna follow the same. For a more feminine eye, we're going to keep it a little more rounded. For a masculine eye, you're going to just do the same. You're kind of following the top here. You're just going to have it a little more boxy, maybe even a little bit more of it seen. A lot of times a feminine eye might have makeup on and it kind of changes the look of that curve. All right, next we need eyebrows. All right, guys, for just a moment, I want you to kind of touch where your eye meets the side of your nose, the corner of your eye, and let your finger go straight up, and you can feel the start of your eyebrow. The eyebrow comes straight up from this tear duct. So tear duct here, eyebrow straight up. Also feel around the front, the top of your eye and the front of your eye. You guys have seen a skull before, right? And there's that hole where the eye is no longer. If you feel you're filling that eye socket, kind of crazy to think about. The reason I'm having you feel that is because that's where your eyebrow is too. Feel when you get to the top of that forehead, where the forehead and the eye socket are, your eyebrow is right along there. So we can decide where our eyebrow is going to go by kind of pretending to draw this circle around our eye as if it were a skull. And we kind of get an idea of where our eyebrows should be. One other thing I meant to say earlier, nobody's two eyes are exactly the same. Symmetry is a beautiful thing. We might naturally have an eye on both sides, but they are not going to be 100% symmetrical. So just take a little pressure off yourself drawing right now, okay? All right, for a more feminine eye, it's probably going to come over an arch somewhere around the edge of the pupil. We tend to have a little more of a dramatic arch in how we want to shape our brows. All right, and you can decide how wide it's going to be. Again, kind of think about your eyes. I have rather thin eyebrows, so mine would be smaller maybe. You might have beautiful, thick, lush eyebrows, and you might make this a little wider. All right, for a little bit more of a masculine look, it's still going to be following along the same eye socket, but it's just not generally going to have quite as much of an arch. And you know your eye. Maybe you do have an arch there. That works. Sometimes they're a little bit more fuller as well, or fuller longer. All right. All right, eyelashes. All right. I'm going to show you what not to do. Let me come over to this crazy picture here. Sometimes when we do eyes, we go through, and this is our eyelashes, like this. That was like an 80s look with mascara and how we did it, but that is typically not what it looks like naturally. The eyelashes tend to go over to the side kind of diagonally. They have a little bit of a sharp tip to them. Instead of drawing each one, I'm not going hyper realistic. I'm going to just draw them kind of clumped together like this. They actually do go around your eye, and you have smaller ones underneath. You could add a little bit there if you wanted to. For more of a masculine look, these are going to be not quite as to the side. They're a little bit more straight on, but typically you just notice them towards the corner. And these are so important, right? Like, we all need these to protect our eyes, so they're there. But maybe just not as many. This could be because a lot of times we see makeup on more of a feminine eye, lots of mascara. That's going to make this look a little more false eyelashes. This just tends to generically be a little bit more the feminine look. All right, guys, you've done it. You have a realistic shape of your eye. You have not forgotten your eyelid. You have a tear duct. You've added some eyelashes. You've added your eyebrow in the right place. The only other thing I will do, you don't have to draw the nose. I just want to mention this. Sometimes when people draw, they start the nose right here, like it comes into your eye. Okay, I want you guys to feel again that eye socket. It actually goes around, okay? So it's going to curve something like this. Your nose is kind of within that eye socket. So you're going to find that your nose actually points up towards your brow and then comes down. So it's more like this and less like this. More from the top, less from the side. All right, you don't need to draw too much, just kind of the lines there. And there you have it. All right, we'll talk in the next video about how we're going to add ink and color to it.